Let's talk about Isaiah Pacheco getting the Mac Lee Hill Award, Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes responding to LeSean McCoy's recent comments, some more potential coaching changes, and then look at safety Juan Thornhill's above-average performance this season and see if he's worth keeping long-term. But first, how about those? First off, the Chiefs recently announced that Patrick Mahomes was voted on by his teammates as this year's Derek Thomas MVP, and Isaiah Pacheco was voted on as the Mac Lee Hill Rookie of the Year. So basically, Mahomes won League MVP, Super Bowl MVP, and was voted on by his teammates as the team MVP. It don't get much better than that. Mahomes won this award also in 2018 after his prior MVP season, also worth noting. And then Isaiah Pacheco won the Mac Lee Hill Award, and that's pretty special considering how many talented rookies the Chiefs had on the team this season, and it also shows how much the team respects Pacheco as well. This is even more impressive when you look back and see that Pacheco didn't even get the starting nod until week 7 of the season, but ended up still rushing for over 1,000 yards if you combine his regular season and postseason yards. And it's even crazier when you look back prior to last year's draft when Brett Veach said there will be a running back in the 7th round that's going to rush for over 1,000 yards. And Isaiah Pacheco was the only 7th round running back to rush for over 1,000 yards. Absolutely fantastic. I know. It took the regular season and postseason combined to get to 1,027 yards and 6 rushing TDs, but still, Veach was right. Pacheco was only one of 3 rookies to rush for over 1,000 yards, and the future is very bright with that man at running back. And you know what else is bright in regards to the future? It's my coffee, because the HBTC blend with Benchwarmer Brew is the most winningest coffee in the lineup, and it's not close. This medium roast is what I drink nearly every morning to start the day off with an instant W, and of course a coffee buzz. I really like that. And if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel in a way that gets you something quality back in return, just go to coffee.hbtchiefs.com and get you some good coffee today. All right, next up, former Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy had his introductory press conference today with the Commanders, and I think it went well, but I'm not entirely sure because the dial-up connection the Commanders were using was so horrible that the majority of the interview looked and sounded like this.
Congratulations. Thank you. About the past or the future. Everybody's entitled to stance in their own position.
I mean, my God, man, that is almost as bad as their ownership has looked in recent years, but whatever. A few snippets I caught that was worth our attention was that EB said he was grateful for his 10 years in KC and loved that season or that chapter of his coaching career with Andy Reid, giving Big Red nothing but the highest of praise and compliments, but is now focused on the here and the now. And when asked about why he decided to move on from KC, Bieniemy said, "Did I have a plan? Yes, I did, but that wasn't to impact anything we were looking to strive for during the course of the season. It did not become a distraction, but when it was all said and done, it was time to move on. It was time for me to go and accept this new challenge and embrace it." He then had a nice quote that I enjoyed myself, and I think you will as well. He said, "Comfort is the enemy of progress," and I'm going to be using that one in the future, and that played into his decision as well. He was getting comfortable and wanted to basically tackle something new, and who knows how much of that, is the Chiefs basically saying, "Hey, you're not coming back this year." I have no idea, but either way, it's done. And he then said he's not worried about being a head coach down the road, which he was asked about a couple of different times, but is focused on this upcoming season. Bieniemy also responded to LeSean McCoy's comments himself when he was asked about them by some beat reporter, and he chose to take the high road in his answer.
LeSean McCoy is a future Hall of Fame runner. He's entitled to his own opinion. It does not impact me in any way. Everything outside these walls has no impact on Eric Bieniemy moving forward.
And it's also worth noting that the king himself, QB1, Patrick LeVon Mahomes II, also took to Twitter today to respond directly to the EB criticism and wish him well in his next chapter. He said this, quote, "There should be no questions on how great of a man/coach Coach Bieniemy is. His leadership has a direct impact on the player/person I am today. 10 plus years learning under one of the greatest coaches of all time, and I cannot wait for him to continue to prove doubters wrong. Flex emoji." So there you have it, straight from the mouth of the best in the business, best in the league. And this was interesting to me that Mahomes came out and said this because he didn't have to say anything at all about Eric Bieniemy. After all, Bieniemy's gone. He's no longer a Chief, officially with another team. But instead, he went online to address this personally, which speaks volumes to how highly he thinks of Eric Bieniemy to me. Regardless, though, It's now on EB this year to go prove it, and I wish him the best. And with EB gone, there's been some movements as far as coaching goes here in KC. First off, Josina Anderson reported that Chiefs running back coach Greg Lewis, who has interest from several suitors, went to visit the Washington Commanders yesterday, per league source. He's expected to discuss a potential role with the team at the facility, and that is a bit of a bummer. I did say that EB could potentially be bringing some of the coaches with him, and I think Greg Lewis is a freaking fantastic coach. He's one of my favorite to listen to during the pressers. Also, he was the Chiefs wide receivers coach from 2017 to 2020 and was a former wide receiver himself for 8 years in the NFL, and I think his experience at wide receiver has been nothing but great for the Chiefs running backs, especially in this type of offense, man, catching all those passes out of the backfield and making things happen in a dynamic, high impact Chiefs offense. I don't know what I'm saying, but if he goes, that's what I'm getting at here. If Greg Lewis goes, he will surely be missed. But with that being said, the Chiefs are looking at adding someone who is no slouch himself, and that is Pep Hamilton. Josina Anderson was told that the Chiefs have explored the possibility of adding Pep Hamilton to their staff per league sources. Hamilton served as the Texans offensive coordinator, most recently as their OC in 2022, and previously served as the head coach for the DC Defenders in the XFL. Worth noting, and I believe he was also consideration last year for the Chiefs prior to Matt Nagy coming on board as their QB coach. Pep was one of Alex Smith's QB coaches his second year in the league and was also Andrew Luck's OC at Stanford, and again back in Indy. And after Indy, he was the QB coach for the Browns for a year, then was the assistant head coach and passing game coordinator for the Wolverines for 4 years, spent 2020 with the Chargers as their QB coach with Justin Herbert, to which Ryan Tracy of RGR Football and half a dozen other titles, he is a very smart man, said Pep is an impressive offensive mind. Justin Herbert would like to have him back, would be another slam dunk member of an elite Chiefs staff, because just last season, as I mentioned before, Pep was the OC of the Texans, who, yes, did go 3-13-1, and therefore Pep went bye-bye, but that makes him available and a good potential candidate as the QB coach of the Chiefs, especially a couple things here, since I looked at him for that position last year, and if Matt Nagy does indeed move up to the offensive coordinator, as many expect he will. So let me know your thoughts on that one. That is certainly interesting, especially when you look at Pep and some of the dynamic stuff he could be bringing to the team. A new face, I like that. And from here, though, we got to talk about Chiefs free agent Juan Thornhill, because as I just stated, he's a free agent, of which the Chiefs have many that we will talk about in upcoming videos. But the question is, what is the future for Juan Thornhill? Do the Chiefs attempt to re-sign him? And if so, what will their breaking point be? If you search around online, you'll find many self-proclaimed GMs saying that Juan Thornhill will more than likely not be re-signed, and instead the Chiefs will more than likely have Brian Cook be the next man up, and they will draft another, especially considering Justin Reed was just brought in last season, and they will more than likely attempt to extend cornerback L'Jarius Sneed if possible, rather than keeping Juan Thornhill. But if they don't keep Juan Thornhill, it's not for the reasons that some people are saying, and we will get there. Back to Sneed real quickly, though. I know Sneed still has another year on his contract, but if they don't hurry up and lock this man up this offseason, Sneed may more than likely be way too freaking expensive by the time he hits free agency around this time next season, especially if he keeps playing this well on the field. I personally am all for a Sneed extension, but I wonder if the Chiefs will take a more considerable look at bringing Juan Thornhill back than the average fan thinks that they will, and we'll get to why I think that. But first, here's an example of what I'm talking about, and this is no shade to Price Carter of Arrowhead Pride. It's just one article of a few that I found. He said this: Thornhill will become a free agent on March 15th. While he hasn't been bad in Kansas City, he hasn't been great either. His biggest issue seems to be consistency. Sometimes he looks like the fantastic player he was back in 2019, and sometimes he looks like the player who could not get past Daniel Sorensen. The bottom line is that his production is not irreplaceable. If he's unable to get an offer elsewhere, he could find himself back with the Chiefs on a one-year deal, but paying him the salary of an average free agent safety would not be a wise move. Okay, so this example here is not an uncommon one floating around Chiefs Kingdom, certainly. However, the reason I think the Chiefs may take a deeper look at bringing Thornhill back is because I'm not so sure he's just an average safety. He played pretty freaking well this season, and Juan knows it too. That's why earlier this month, on February 12th, Thornhill said, "Stop playing with me. Been quiet all year. Appreciate the doubt. heart emoji. And a few days later, he said, gonna continue to shock the world. And then I'm pretty sure Juan has been seeing all the GM Twitter chatter as well, because he recently said, everyone is a GM at this time of the year, I see, laughing emoji, and then followed up with, can't wait to shut all the BS up once again. To which Justin Reed responded in the comments saying, fuel to fire. And I do think Thornhill has some reason to be fired up, because he actually graded out better in nearly every category compared to Justin Reed per PFF. Out of 68 safeties who played 50% of snaps this season, Juan was graded as the 15th best overall safety. 15th overall out of 68. That's really good. He was also 35th against the run, 29th in tackling, 19th in pass rush, in his pass rush grade, 9th in coverage, and did have 3 interceptions to Justin Reed's goose egg. Now, Juan Thornhill is a free safety. Justin Reed is a strong safety, and I'm no expert on their coverage differences and tendencies based on certain looks. I'm just saying Thornhill deserves more credit than he's getting on average, and that includes myself. I've been a little reluctant to give him the flowers he deserves, but it's really hard, man. You don't see the secondary on the TV broadcast. You got to dig into the coach's film. And again, I am not a freaking expert, just reporting every day from my basement live to you all. Anyway, Thornhill knows that he is getting slept on, and that's exactly why he said, can't wait to shut all this BS up. Like, yo, I'm a great player and had a great season, so what's the deal with people not saying I should get re-signed to Kansas City? Well, I don't think it's actually because he's average and doesn't deserve the money. I actually think he may have potentially outplayed himself to come back to Kansas City. I think another team could offer him quite a bit of money, and the Chiefs may not be able to match it. But there's also a lot of moving parts and just complex situations going on here in Kansas City. You have Chris Jones to potentially extend. Frank Clark's contract will need reworked if he's going to stay. Then there's the potential Snead extension and lots of defensive tackles hitting free agency as well. And then that's not even to discuss anything to do with the offensive side of the ball, which is a whole nother video in and of itself. But that's where I want to pass the question off to you guys. What are your thoughts on Juan Thornhill's performance this season? And would you make it a pretty high priority to bring him back? Or is he average? Don't bring him back. Or is he above average and probably not going to be able to come back due to another team offering him a lot more money? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm curious to know which of those two mindsets you are in line with. You know, maybe it is just Brian Cook is the next man up. They will draft another. Or do the Chiefs find Juan Thornhill more valuable than we even know and may try to make it work? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?